With the very latest. Anastasia, a guilty verdict handed down. Talk to me about the reaction in the court there.
Well, Christine, definitely the people who have been following this case for a long time have been dubbing it as really a Hollywood screenplay gone sour. Even though this case seems to have been lost by Victor Bout in the court of public opinion in the United States a very long time ago, even before it started 3 weeks ago, the trial here in New York City, people were still hopeful, himself, certainly his family and his defense team, that they would be able to convince the jury to decide otherwise. But yes, we saw 12 jurors and unanimously find Victor Bout guilty. This is the latest from the courtroom here. And we know that his defense lawyer spoke to the crews outside the courthouse earlier today. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
He believes that this is not the end, that he still has a chance, and we have a chance to, again, we can appeal to this judge, that the verdict was rendered against the weight of the evidence, and then we can also proceed to the United States Court of Appeals. But we are disappointed at this verdict.
Well, Christine, Victor Bout's lawyer, Albert Dayan, also said that the defense team now has 30 days to appeal this verdict, and this is exactly what they're planning to do, as you just heard. Meanwhile, we do know that the judge is expected to, for now, announce the sentence for Victor Bout on February 8th, and of course, we know it could be anything from 25 years to a life sentence behind bars.
Let's talk about the bigger picture here in this case. I know we've been saying for several months now, between the nickname given to Victor Bout as the Merchant of Death, Hollywood getting involved, a lot of people say that this case was really decided before it even began. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, you're absolutely right about that, Christine. Of course, the term Merchant of Death was coined when Victor Bout was arrested in Thailand in 2008, way before he was brought to the United States. And we've heard the prosecution refer to him as the Merchant of Death, as they were only in the stages of announcing the charges being brought against him. And this is something that the judge, even during the trial, had to ban this term from being used inside the courtroom in fear that it would influence the decision of the jury, which unfortunately it looks like it has. Of course, we also know that Nicolas Cage played Victor Bout in a Hollywood flick, Lord of War, and the judge had also made the jury sign a pledge, making them promise they will not be searching this man on the internet, trying to find information about him, because so many different sources, mostly inside the United States, mainstream media channels, were very critical of this man, dubbing him the Merchant of Death even before the trial even started, because as we know, the hunt for Victor Bout by U.S. officials, who eventually did catch him undercover, went on for almost a decade, with tens of millions of dollars being spent on hunting down this one man.
One more bigger picture thing, Anastasia, I want to talk about. Many see this case as one of many in which Russians or other foreign citizens are entrapped by U.S. officials in the midst of pretty high-profile or pretty complex sting operations. Talk a little bit about, is this a trend?
That really seems to be the case at this point, Christine. Of course, we've been reporting here at RT on numerous cases where the FBI would fabricate cases to get people who would otherwise not consider committing a crime to get lured into some of their schemes. This was certainly the case with Victor Bout, who continued to allege his innocence throughout the entire trial and even before that, and even to this moment. And he has been saying that when he was dealing with undercover U.S. special agents that fabricated the sting operation to capture this man, he knew all along that he was not dealing with real FARC members, and he has been charged and now found guilty of trying to sell arms to FARC group, the FARC group, which is considered terrorist in the United States. In the meantime, we have to remember that he was actually in fact dealing with U.S. special agents posing as members of FARC. So certainly something that the United States has a great practice in. And interestingly, in this case, one of the main witnesses against Victor Bout was a man from the Drug Enforcement Agency who is said to be one of the highest paid informants in the United States. So certainly a big operation to try to make sure this man goes to prison here in the U.S.
Very briefly, looking ahead, you said we should be keeping our eyes out for both an appeal by the defense attorney for Victor Bout and after that, the sentencing phase. Is that correct?
That's absolutely right. We'll have to see if in the next 30 days the defense team, which they are planning to do, will file an appeal. Although unlikely, it looks quite unlikely that this is something that's going to change the outcome of Victor Bout's destiny at this point, since the verdict did come down rather quickly. And it seems like on February 8th, we'll find out exactly what kind of term Victor Bout will be serving behind bars. Again, from 25 to a lifetime behind bars here in a U.S. prison.
All right, we do appreciate your reporting, correspondent Anastasia Churkina in our New York studio.